Welcome to Chris and Jen in the morning.
Where it's always morning somewhere. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jen.
And we finally got through the intro.
Good morning, Chris.
Hi.
Or midday. Good midday.
Yeah, that works. My
thumbs
laptop apparently agrees that it's midday, so
thumbs up.
thumbs up.
Oh, it's been such an awkward start for us this morning, and that's perfectly on topic because I wanted to talk about awkwardness today, which is something that you know I happen to have a little bit of expertise.
You? What?
I know.
No.
It's shocking. Shocking.
I was like,
so-
is she saying shucking or shocking?
It's shockingly shocking. So you know that I frequently find myself, all of me, all six
all
of
of the
me,
yous. Mm-hmm.
all of me. You know that I frequently find myself in situations where I have said something out of my mouth that has popped, and either because of the look on everyone else's face or their giggling, snickering reaction, or just, after I hear it with my own ears physically, I realize that what I have said is just very awkward. So I thought we can talk a little bit about that today and share some examples. And what I really am looking for here is for everyone else to make me feel a little less awkward by knowing that I'm not in this alone.
I'm not by myself in these awkward comments.
This is like a two-way street. I'll share with you, but I want you to share back with me.
Please validate my feelings on this matter.
Yeah. So, I'm not talking about just being awkward because 1,000% of the time I feel awkward. Just all the time, on the inside, even if it doesn't translate to the outside. I once had somebody at work, as we were going and meeting a bunch of people that we had never met before. It's like a whole room of people and they all knew each other. There were like 150 people there or something. We didn't know them. And, so I was like, okay, let's work the room. And I just like hopped in and started introducing myself, introducing this person. And she was like, oh my gosh, you're just so good at this. I'm so awkward. And I'm like, oh, no. Like, I'm 1,000% awkward in here. This is just me pretending. Like, I think I'm not awkward. So if you can relate to that feeling, no, you're not alone. But sometimes, like, it's not just a feeling of awkwardness, or it's not just you do something that's awkward. Like, you actually say awkward things at awkward times. And I have a few examples from my real, actual life that I wanted to share. So I'm sure you've heard this story, Chris, but back when I lived in Ohio, I had somebody I worked with at work, someone I worked with at work. And
what? You work with people at work? That's just shocking.
Yeah, I know. And so we were friends. We went out to lunch, and he was going back to the country that his family lived in. For like an extended period of time. It was just before the holidays. And this was like earlier on in my career where work hugging was just really awkward to me. I have been like desensitized by the barrage of work hugging that's happened, and I now initiate it at work. So my current coworkers would be like, you are not a hugger at work? Wrong. But I didn't come out that way. Like, that's a learned skill.
It's a learned behavior.
It's learned. It's learned. So we go to say goodbye, and it's just before the holidays, and we're standing in the lobby of the office, where other people walk through constantly. And it's like, just that getting back from lunchtime. So it's a busy place. And he goes to give me a hug because he's not going to see me for a while. And there's nothing that I know that he's a guy and I'm a girl, but like, he's clearly fully platonic. So he leans in to give me a hug. And my response is to say out loud, oh, we're hugging now. That's awkward.
But you even tagged on that's awkward at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. That made it awkward. It wasn't awkward till then, Jen.
It's not awkward if somebody hugs you and you say, "We're hugging now."
I don't think so. I mean,
No,
I
it's
don't.
all awkward.
Okay. Oh,
You don't think so?
I'm guessing you have talked to other people who have confirmed the awkwardness of
The situation.
yeah.
Wait, he didn't even acknowledge the fact that I said that, gracious as he was. And then I just very quickly, I'm sure with bright pink cheeks, said, "I promise I hope you have a great time visiting your family. I'll see you soon," and ran off.
Go. I don't know. I mean, look, yes, I think like it catches you off guard, like you have your feelings about it, which you apparently processed out loud.
I did lots of out loud processing. Just falls out. Okay, so
did you ever like follow back up? Like, did it ever come
no,
up between you
we
two
just
ever?
we just
No.
did not speak of it. It's I think that is part of why it still hangs in the awkward balance of life for me. Like
Not
it's
been
just one of those
discussed.
cringy moments. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate that?
I would say low, like probably 3, maybe 4.
You'd give that a 3. Okay, well, for me it feels probably like a 7, but I'll take your 3.
All right.
So let
Well,
me
now
up
we're
the
getting to
game here.
understand the spectrum here. So
The spectrum, yep. Let me up your game here. So
right.
Here I am on a work call, one of those video calls, that we all get on with, some people that I work with at my company, and then a vendor partner and like a whole team of people. And it's early on in this relationship with them. And I am talking about some marketing, as we are new in this market, and wanting to talk about like what is the point of some of the campaigns that we're going to be running. And how I choose to answer this topical question is to say I want to be in their mouths.
Yeah, that's higher than a 3 or 4. Did anyone else in this conversation catch it, or
No? So I don't know if you can see right now, but I feel like my face is flushing. It definitely was bright pink on that video call. My eyes are watering. My eyes were definitely watering. No one like reacted at all. Like, I think sometimes when somebody says something that's awkward and then people around react, you can all kind of process the fact that it was weird and move on. But no one reacted. So all I can imagine is that they're on their own like Slack, Teams chat, whatever channel, back channel on this call. Because there's like, I don't know, 8 people, 10 people on this call. They're all over there on their own company channel, just like dying.
did she really just say that?
And yeah, everyone's pretending like it's normal. And so, of course, it comes out of my mouth. And then I'm like, what did I say? Shoot. What did I say? And I just make it more awkward by like, like in their mouths, like I want like word of mouth, like I want words. I want my words to be in their mouth. Nope. So word of mouth is really, we're not targeting the actual individuals that we're trying to get a hold of. It's a small market. I just want to build brand awareness and word of mouth campaigning. And it just would have been better to say that. So I want to be in their mouths. So I have built friendships with some of these folks personally. And I did say at one point, like, I know none of y'all reacted to this on the call, but I just want you to know that you may never confirm this because you are so professional. I 1,000% know that you all were slacking each other about how ridiculous that was. And they just...
And no one confirmed? No one said anything?
No, just gave a little giggle and moved on. So you know it happened.
Next thing you know,
Dying.
HR shows up at your door. Hey, Jen.
Now, my friend who I work with, who happened to be on the call at the same time, was slacking me internally, just dying. I mean, just rolling on the floor, dying, because she was like, I can't believe you just said that.
Yep.
So
it just
we had a
came
good laugh.
right out of my mouth that I wanted
Just fell out,
them
and you wish you could take it
in
back.
my mouth.
When I was little, I want to be in their mouth. When I was like the logic, how I got there to that statement, like word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
Brand awareness, people. It's just called brand awareness. Like it's a brand awareness campaign. Sometimes you don't have to use as many words as what are crowding inside your head. Filter. When I was little, like really little, like teeny tiny little, I used to say, like delete, 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 erase, erase, erase when I would say things that then would kind of get weird or messed up or not what I meant.
Yeah.
I would do that all the time because I just never stopped talking when I was little. I know that's tough for you to believe.
It's going to take some time to wrap my mind around that one.
I know. So I would just babble on, just, say all kinds of things. And then I would say things that didn't make sense or that didn't come out right, or they made sense in my head until I spoke them out loud. And then I would say, delete, 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 erase, erase, erase. And I don't know when or why I stopped doing that. Like, thank God I did. But
I don't know. I feel like it's a missed opportunity to open the door to talk about those things.
I still want to. So, so where would you rate that? I've got 2 more for you, but where would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, that's definitely probably a 7, 8. Like,
feels like a 15 to me on a scale of 1 to 10. Just so we're clear.
So we're breaking the scale now.
So, here I was at work again. Oh my gosh, these happen
Maybe
in
you should
personal.
Just stop working. Maybe that's the problem.
Stop talking at work. There's no more speaking. They happen all the time, but it's the work ones that seem to get me the most. So here I am at work. I'm standing out in, this area where a bunch of people on my team are around me. And we're talking about how, commonly, people will apply for something or, provide feedback or, whatever. And if the company has no response, it's like they fell into a black hole. This is a common phrase that's used all the time in the work setting, right? Yes. So I am asked a question about the timing of when we follow up with people and how we're managing the volume of what's coming in versus what it is, how quickly we can respond. And so as I was responding to this individual in this setting with all of these other people around, what I choose to say is, no black holes. We can't have any black holes. Just no black holes. We don't want anyone to be in a black hole. No black holes. And people, I'm just saying it so loudly. And people on my team around me are just
stop saying it.
nickering. And then one of them is in her chair, doubled over, just dying. And I'm like, oh no, this is, so then I try and make it less awkward by saying, no, this is a thing. This is a thing. This is a term. This is common industry. I didn't make this up. This is.
Just trying to make that happen. And
somebody says, maybe we should find a new term for it.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So that went over well.
See, I call that where I work the abyss. I've sent it into the abyss.
Okay, well, I don't know if that's better.
Maybe just do a sticky black hole equals abyss.
We're just not going to talk about holes. That's what I know. Because that didn't get a very good reaction.
Lessons learned.
Unless you're doing a comedy stand-up routine.
Yeah.
So,
Again, that's
yeah,
definitely probably like another 7, 8.
okay. Well, I would rate it like maybe a 8 or a 9. But it's not a 15 out of 10 for sure, like the other one. All right. So most recent one, I was on the phone with one of the individuals that also happens to have been on the I Want to Be in Their Mouths call.
So we're back at work and Jenna's talking.
But it's just a
Go
phone
on.
call between two people. And we're talking not about work. We're talking, like about other stuff. And he is saying something about a subscription that he has that's just a monthly subscription for a thing. And it's like his wife, is like, we can't let go of this. And so he is basically just articulating like, so I just have to live with it. We just have to decide like this is just a part of a part of the cost of living. And so I respond back in saying, yeah, I mean, it's like gas. We all have gas.
Which isn't it? That's not a false statement.
And what I mean is like gasoline, like we all have to just factor in the cost of gasoline as a part of a living expense, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Correct.
But that I keep trying to explain that that's what I meant, but not using gasoline. Just I keep repeating gas, and it just keeps sounding like I'm saying we all have intestinal gas, like digestive issues.
You just kept digging yourself into a black hole.
Yeah. And he says nothing. He does not react. He doesn't laugh. He doesn't, which makes it all the more awkward because I'm like, have I just made this worse? How do we get out of here?
Has he muted himself because he's doubled over laughing so hard?
He doesn't acknowledge it. And I'm like, oh my God, he probably thinks I'm an idiot. It's fine. That definitely like ranked probably a 9 or a 10 for me. It's just really mortifying. It's also fresher. So I wasn't trying to say we all have gas, but it definitely sounded like I was saying we all have gas. So
yeah. Again, another 7 or 8 in my opinion.
Yeah. So these are some examples of just truly awkward things that situations I have found myself in after.
I've got one with you that you didn't share.
Oh, shoot. All right. Carry on.
So
share.
you had redid your house, you rebuilt, and you're talking about your front door, and you're talking to me about this, and then you're like, yeah, we have a penis door, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry, what? And you're like, no, seriously.
Like that was awkward. I don't feel like that was I accidentally walked into something
but with
awkward.
no context, like I did not understand what you like. What?
It truly.
So then you took a picture
There's
and you sent
it to
flowers.
Me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's supposed to be flowers, but it doesn't look like flowers.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like the door I picked out either. Because they looked like flowers in the door I picked out, but they're very phallic flowers.
Oh, Jen.
But I don't think that's an awkward thing I said. I think that's just an awkward fixture in my house.
Well, again, not having like the context with the visual, it does.
Basically, what I hear you saying is that I feel awkward all the time. But in those moments that I don't feel awkward, I should probably still be feeling awkward.
No, I'm not saying that at all. Not at all. No, I think so. I have a hard time like thinking back on things that I've said that can be taken awkward. I'm sure I have. Like, who hasn't? Where I find myself like second guessing myself is my delivery, because I am a sarcastic individual. I can be
Little
snarky.
snark.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so I know, like, when I walk away from conversations, I am more hard on myself around, like, "Ooh, was that taken the correct?" Like, they laughed, but were they just laughing because they didn't
See, but
want to say something?
I think it doesn't come out as awkward because it's like you're trying to be snarky but appropriately. And so it's funny. Whereas I'm trying to be genuine and then I am surprised by what comes out of my mouth. I am as surprised by what comes out of my mouth as whoever is hearing it. It's me. I think that's what makes it awkward. I think
All
that's
right.
what makes it awkward.
Well,
So we'd love to hear if
yes, we
you
would.
all also experience this, or this is just a Jen specific experience in life. So if you were a child saying erase, 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 delete, 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 or which my older sister can attest to because I'm sure she remembers that quite well. Or if you just find yourself saying things and then wishing you could immediately, Lizzie McGuire style, just cartoon character, pop them all back into your mouth. I'd love to hear from you because I don't want to feel alone in this. So if you're willing,
I'm sure you are not alone.
love for you to share, and we'll pick out the best ones and share in an upcoming episode if you allow us to do so. So
I'm looking forward to that episode.
right. Don't leave me hanging here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be another awkward moment.
Let's get them in and let's put them in our mouths. Let's do it.
That doesn't even make any sense.
Well, we're going to say it. They're going to send it, and then it's going to come out of our mouths.
All right. I'm not.
Jen's like, now I feel awkward because you just said something awkward.
Yeah. I'm afraid to say anything. Who else might feel awkward? I feel like maybe villains sometimes feel awkward. No?
I think it depends on like which villains we're talking about. Now, I know that something shocking you have told me in the past that like stopped me in my tracks as we were having this conversation was that you thought that Thanos, who in the MCU is this horrible person who's trying to wipe out.
Is this past tense or current tense?
That you think
you said I thought. Is it that I thought it or that I think it?
Oh, you think it. You think that Thanos is misunderstood and really just trying to
1,000%.
do a good thing.
1,000%. I 1,000% believe that.
Share with us why you feel Thanos is a good character and miscast as a villain.
I didn't say that. I did not say that. I'm just saying behind most villains, not every villain, but behind most villains, there is some kind of logic in their head about why they're doing what they're doing, or some kind of backstory that has led them to where they are. And for Thanos, it's not like he's not the kind of villain that has this, grew up mistreated, and so now, like, I mistreat people. He's, like, truly trying to save the world. He's just doing it in a bit of a unorthodox way.
Gotcha.
But, now look, I get it. In the stories, Thanos also just is evil to be evil, and I ignore those parts. But if you think about Thanos' mission, his mission is to decrease the population because he sees the population going on a trajectory that is going to, like, doom everybody. So he's trying to save half of the population. Now, do I agree with his method around how he's going about this? No, I don't. But could I see that his intentions in this mission are well-intentioned?
Well, but I think that goes there are really two stories of Thanos. There is Thanos in the movies, and there's Thanos in the comics. So
Well, isn't there
based on what you're
isn't that true for
saying,
all of these comic book characters?
yeah, I mean, yes, yes, the adaptation from comic to movie is changed, obviously, to make storylines work and all of that fun stuff. But you're talking about movie Thanos because comic book Thanos is actually trying to like win the attention of
Lady Death. Yes,
correct.
he's in love. He's in love, and you know, it's like he hasn't heard Meatloaf's song, so he would just do anything for love. And there's no that he won't do.
He's just trying to get her attention. Let's be clear. Like is wants her, and she wants like she's not interested.
Everybody needs to be wanted, even villains. You know.
Yeah, I won't disagree. So
so
that leads to another character within the MCU that has like also
come on, giant purple uh character played by Josh Brolin. Like, how could I not?
and he has a sparkly glove with jewels.
How could I not? I will tell you, so the boys, my son and my husband, super into like all of the comic book characters and universe and all of that. And when my son was younger, I used to try to pay attention to their conversation because I went from being like the apple of his eye as is natural to progress into like the less cool of the two parents as he got older. And so I just felt left out being the only girl in the house. And I wanted in. So I tried to follow along, but they would just like totally nerd out. And I was like, I have no context. And my husband like grew up working in a comic book shop, and like, I mean, he is this insanely good at research and trivia and like all these facts and stuff. And so like these universes are deep. These storylines are deep, and he is well educated, right? So he and my son are having these conversations about, all kinds of superheroes. And one of the things they would constantly do is say, like, who would be who? Who would beat who in a fight?
Okay.
Now, like, this is like, I don't know when the Iron Man movies came out, but I think this might have like been before or just around this timing. So like, I know that there have always been superhero movies out there, but before like this current era really kind of became super popular. And I was like, I don't really know anything about any of them. So I was like, well, who is the strongest character? Well, they were not just talking about heroes. They were talking about all the characters. And so Thanos is one of the ones that was put out there in their listing of like who is the most powerful, and they're arguing back and forth about this. And I was like, tell me about this Thanos. And they said, well, he's this giant purple dude. And I was like, that's it.
Sold.
He's my favorite. And so that's when I decided, like, I'm all in on Thanos. And then they were like, are you sure you want to be all in on Thanos? Because like, he's a really bad guy. And I was like, you just said he was like the most powerful, right?
And he's purple.
Yeah. And you just said he was purple. Yeah. Okay. So I want the one that's going to win everything every time. And he's purple. That's my dream. And then as I got to know more about him, I really am all in on this. I believe he is just misunderstood and maybe a little bit misguided. Sure. I don't want to snap out half the universe, population control, whatever. Like there are other solutions here, but I'm just saying, I feel like he may be a little misunderstood. And don't you think that that's the case, like with all villains and heroes? It's just who's on whose side. I mean, the heroes kill people too. They just kill the bad guys, so we're not supposed to feel bad about it.
Right. I do I also think that there's a like not to like get
In group,
philosophical
out
or
group
go,
thinking.
but like when you think about like good storytelling, you have your protagonist and you have your antagonist. And so naturally there is going to be someone who is causing some type of event or drama or something that the yes, another great villain, actually voted one of the scariest or the best, one of the best villains, um Darth Vader. But we'll get to him in a minute.
Oh, okay.
I
I
just think
drank
a
too soon.
lot, you sip too soon. I just think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of it goes into like also the backstory that we're willing to be given and people are willing to explore, because when we sit down to watch or read or listen, you're hearing it from a certain person's perspective. And
Oh, yeah,
so
totally. I think in our own lives as well as in storytelling,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
in order to justify the actions one takes, oftentimes we put ourselves in this in-group, out-group thinking mentality without even knowing that we're doing that. And so in order to justify your actions or the actions of the hero, which aren't always perceived as altruistic by everybody from everybody's pair of shoes, you have to create a villain, right? Otherwise, what you're doing may not necessarily be as palatable. So who's next? Who's your next villain?
Well, no, so let's go to Darth Vader, because you had said, as we were having a conversation, you had
Another
mentioned
very
that
misunderstood.
right, that
Very
you had heard
misunderstood.
some stuff that was some interesting, like
But
provided.
honestly, I think that not only is Darth Vader misunderstood and misrepresented in, most of the pop culture, but I think he also is one of those villains that has there's a reason that he turned out this way. He didn't just like wake up and decide to be bringing pain to people. He's like doing what he thinks is the right thing to do based on the truly evil villains that are puppeteering him around.
You don't get all of that backstory in his original appearance.
Well, I
So
mean, I don't know that I've ever like watched all of the movies all the way through, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, probably I've watched them all. I at some point in my life, but that would be how many hours of streaming content would that be like to sit down and watch all of them all together?
it would be quite a while. And
Yeah.
so, like when George Lucas originally created this villain, he was depicted as someone who's very tall, dark, a dark, fluttering figure that has a spooky feeling that, like it came off the wind.
Well, he released the the last 3 episodes first, and then you kind of go back in time and hear how they got there.
Right.
So he's
But he
he's
was
already in villain mode by the time you first meet Darth Vader.
correct. But my point is like the character description was that he is a dark lord of the evil side. And so, but to what you were saying, when we get more context behind what's
If
happening,
he's a man in love who feels that he has to protect, and that the universe is kind of out to get him and keep him apart from his love, and he doesn't become evil out of rage for that, but he is being told by these truly evil villains behind the puppet strings, that holding the puppet strings, that the good guys in the story are fighting against him. So like Darth Vader does not perceive himself as the bad guy. And I think that is where you have like in the I don't want to like spoiler, but it's been out for a long time. But there is whoa.
if we are spoiling Star Wars for you, we I think there
Then
is.
you're doing it wrong. Yeah. But when he finally meets his demise, he has like remorse over his choices. Well, and I should say when because does he like come back to life with Kylo Ren, or is he like still alive? All I can hear is, Kylo Ren going, grandfather. This is so ridiculous. Adam Driver did play that super well. Way better than I would. Grandfather. But like he realizes at that point, like he's been misguided at some point in that storyline. And to me, that's the difference between like a truly evil villain who is, there to, serve themselves no matter the cost to anyone else versus somebody who is willing to do things that are maybe not so palatable because they believe it's for the greater good. And if you look at heroes, that's what heroes do. They are willing to do things that maybe are a little less palatable, but for the greater good. So when you look at Thanos and his snapping half the population away, he's doing it for what he believes to be the greater good.
Correct. From his perspective, he is doing what he can to save the universe.
Yeah.
Whether you agree that is the right choices or not,
So just another spoiler in case you didn't know. Darth Vader is also Luke's father. So yeah.
Seriously? Yeah. What episode does that come out in?
Wait a second.
Oh, that was fun. You're like, you were just having this conversation. What? I just thought I'd have some fun. Okay, but that I think is a great transition to a more common day, or not common day, but I think a more recent example of this is the story around the Wicked Witch and who we now know is Elphaba.
Okay, yes. So can I just say, you have said in your argument that Darth Vader is evil because his character is described as an evil person, whatever description it was you gave that I projected and didn't even commit to memory. And yet, Elphaba is the Wicked Witch of the West. But do you believe that Elphaba is a villain?
In Wicked, no. But in the story that we are given,
but she's the same
through the eyes of Dorothy, which is told to her by Glinda, the Good Witch, and the Munchkins, the Wicked Witch of the West is an evil person. And so that was the only context that we had for her, right? So, but then you begin to learn who they are, what made them, what create, like that. I mean, to me, it's learning that backstory.
I think the true villain in the story is the wizard and Madame Morrible. Which
I mean, to be seen, right?
I also realized rhymes with horrible. So it was there all along. And
a little bit of heads up for you.
Didn't realize that. I'm sure it was done on purpose. But like by my definition, which is clearly the right definition, if you are in it for a self-serving purpose, regardless of the expense of others, then you are truly a villain. And I think that's the wizard.
Well, I mean, he has a backstory too. One that I honestly cannot think of off the top of my head.
It does have a backstory. And I'm not saying that you can't have reasons that have led you down the path of making choices that are self-serving. I'm not saying other people throughout your life, like nature versus nurture, are like that's a doesn't add in to bringing somebody to a point where they make choices, but ultimately you make your own choices. And if you are making a choice that is, I mean, this is kind of oversimplified in its thoughts, very complex, very complex here. But I think if you are making choices knowing that other people will suffer and the end goal is just to serve yourself, it's not for the greater good, then that's truly villainous versus being misguided, misinformed. And I'm not saying that we can just all claim ignorance and then call ourselves a hero, because I don't think that's true either. But I'm just saying, like, when it really comes down to it, what is a villain? And I think true villainy comes from the disregard for others in order to, in service of self.
So then do you think whenever you watch a movie that is superhero movie or, insert whatever type of movie where you're being given the storyline, you're like, there's not context to the characters besides what's being put in front of you. I talk about it in the framework of movies, but it could be books, it could be comics, it could be any of those things. Like, do you suspend judgment? Do you, Jen, suspend judgment on believing that that person is truly evil until, like, do you go through, like, do you ask all of those questions?
I think it depends. Is this a fictional story for entertainment? Because, like, I also want to enjoy the story that's being unfolded in front of me, right? Like, I'm not just here to play devil's advocate for all reasons, right? If it's a true story, I think that's what I aspire to do, is think about things from the other person's point of view.
Yeah.
You can't, like, you can't really know somebody's true intentions. I mean, you can kind of be fairly certain, but like, intention is something that's very personal and internal, and people can tell you whatever they want you to believe, but like, so I think you can kind of have a sense for it. But I do think that when it comes to, like, fictional stories, I think that depth of storytelling comes from being able to share the multiple perspectives versus, like, the simplistic good guy, bad guy. And sometimes, like, that's not to say that, like, the simplistic writing, isn't still great, because sometimes you just don't want to have to think too deeply or be too torn. Like, there's a reason that I love to watch Hallmark movies. And it's not because they're winning cinematic awards. It's because I know what to expect every single time. And it just doesn't require any, it doesn't require a ton of brain energy or, emotional energy in order to watch the story. Because you kind of know what you're getting. Right. Although I will say, and again, it's probably an entirely different topic that we should talk about at some point, because I have a lot of opinions about it. There have been some truly great Hallmark movies that just kind of surprise you. But, there's a reason that they're, they are what they are. And they serve a purpose, and I keep going back for more on purpose. So I think there's a place for that. And I'm not trying to overthink those things, because it steals my joy.
Yeah. I mean, I find myself, whenever, like, I watch superhero movies, like, it's entertainment factor for me. I'm not, like, doing, character now. I know there are people out there who do, and, like, everyone receives and processes content in their own way. It is not something that I personally, like, spend a lot of time going down.
I will tell you, if someone were to write a movie about how Iron Man, as played by Robert Downey Jr., because he is, I don't care what happens in the future, the only real Iron Man, and they were to characterize him as a bad guy and tell this from, like, the point of view of other people that Iron Man has interacted with. And I get it. In the beginning, in the first Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man movie, he was being depicted as a bad guy because the weapons that were being sold, or getting into that, but it really wasn't him. He wasn't aware of it. And that's all in the first 10 minutes of the movie. So I'm not spoiling anything. And if you haven't seen that one, it's been out for over a decade. I don't know how long. So that's kind of on you also. But now I'm the villain. But I'm just saying, if there was a movie to come out about how Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man was a villain, I would reject it entirely and probably not watch it. Because in my mind, there is no greater hero.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because there is a new movie coming out. Robert Downey Jr. is not leaving the MCU. He is coming back. They've announced he's going to be playing Doctor Doom, and I think the film comes out in 2026, I think.
And I actually don't know anything about Doctor Doom as a character. I think we've interacted with him at some point before, right?
I think he was in the what's it called? The Fantastic Four. I think that's where he's been. I don't think he's been in the the Avengers storyline yet.
I don't really know anything about Doctor Doom. I am perplexed at why we can't have Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man anymore, and yet he can play Doctor Doom. RDJ, I just want you to know that I love you. I do. So, I'm sure that Doctor Doom will become one of my favorite characters.
Hey, let's see. And you may be his fiercest defender if he's this horrible villainous person.
I also think that I am capable of fully loving him and accepting the fact that he is truly a villain. So, we'll see how that one plays out.
So there's that.
So there's that. Who else is on your list? Your villainous list?
Well, so I think one that kind of surprised me at being someone who does not follow comics, anything like that, it's just been the world in which I've been entertained by. Loki is one who, within the MCU, originally...
Also not a villain. It's not a villain.
Let's hear it. You just misguided, misunderstood.
Yeah. First of all, trickery is his superpower, so he was born that way. He wants to be good, and then he gets burned. He definitely is one of those villains that has the backstory of I am this way because of my circumstances. I didn't get here all by myself. But and I know he was brought up, just like one of the others, but the awkwardness of feeling like you really never have a place to fit in. You can see how he got to where he goes. I actually think the storytelling that Marvel Cinematic Universe has been doing about their characters is just really beautiful and complex. So you get to see the multifaceted sides of all these characters. But I will say, if you watch the Loki series, I think it's hard to see him as a villain after watching those series. Whereas if you just watch the movies, it's a lot easier to see him as a villain.
Yeah. I did not watch... I started watching the Loki series. I did not get very far into it.
You're a villain. You're a villain. You're a villain. You're missing out. Make yourself sit down and watch them. No,
I don't think
you have
that
to.
I will watch it, but what I'm going to say is I don't think that... I think they do a good job even in the movie storytelling to show he's
conflicted.
Yes, that he goes both sides. He is, and I think kind of the dynamic that I like about that shows between him and Thor is Thor sees the good that's in him and knows that he knows him. And so I think gives him a little bit more leeway, grace, whatever you want to call it, versus some of the other characters are oh, he tried to ruin Earth. He tried so I like kind of the dynamic that they bring and in their character dynamic.
I love that you bring that up because I do think that the Loki Thor relationship and dynamic just calls out what I think is like just one of those like truths about life in general, which is that like no one being is all good or all bad. Like we're all somewhere on this like spectrum, and we can push ourselves you know, towards different directions. But like being able to see the whole person and not like get oversimplified in how we're thinking. And you can kind of fall in the my motivations are mostly self-serving camp, or my motivations are mostly not self-serving camp. But I think no one is oversimplified all good or all bad. And I do love like what you just brought up in that Thor knows Loki, and so he sees Loki not in the way that some people initially tend to see and make a judgment about people to say, oh, they're a bad person or a good person, because really people are just complicated.
Well, studies have also been done to show, like, based on the scenarios that people are put in, you show up differently. The way you act, the way you think, and so, and again, depending on where you sit in hearing the story, these people are
that's in group and out group thinking, right? Like you are in my in group, so anything that you do, I am always going to approach it from the positive, we're on the same team, we're on the same side perspective, and look for the reasons to support you, not look for the reasons to confirm that, you're in the wrong. But somebody that's in my out group that like is, already in my mind deemed as negative, literally anything they do, even if that thing is not a bad thing, I will immediately perceive as a bad thing and have to work myself back from that. And that's just like neuroscience. That's actually like passed down genetically in us because it helps from just a basic like human survival concept. Like just like animals, there are the prey knows that its predator is bad because it has to run away and save itself. Because inevitably it knows that it will get eaten. And I think like that's where the in-group out-group thinking comes from, but we tend to kind of sit in that place a little too often for ourselves, and then it doesn't serve us always. So we have to be mindful about when it's serving us and when it's not serving us.
I would agree, and I think that I think some people it's a much easier process to do that, to see things from others' perspectives, to try and understand potential ulterior motives. And others it's not. Like, and does that make them a bad person for not wanting to, like, if this is the person you're going to represent me at face value, then I'm going to take you for you. Versus like really challenging my thoughts on how I perceive you.
Yeah. So we know I am capable of loving villains because I absolutely love Thanos, and he's my favorite. And Darth Vader, he's pretty up there too. Who is your favorite villain?
My favorite villains, as we were talking about this, has to be Yzma and Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove. Absolutely love that you have these. Kronk is not a evil henchman.
Is
like
he really a villain?
No. No, because I think when you talk about like what are their drivers, what are their factors, like he's even doing good things as he's like going through the movie, right? Trying to do what Yzma, the bad person, the villain in the movie, is actually doing. So it's always to me, I enjoy the comedic factor of it. I had an aunt who she used to call me Kronk as like a joke. And so I started calling her Aunt Yzma. And so that was like an extra little layer that why this holds like a special place in my heart. But I
We
will
just got
say,
a note from our producer that Kronk has just answered the wrong job posting.
yeah, yeah, poor guy. Tough times. He needed a job, you know.
He needed a job. But you will say,
I will say, as I started looking more into like my childhood villains, some Disney ones specifically came up, and as of recently, there's been a few movies that Disney has released that has provided a little bit of background on some villains. So Cruella from 101 Dalmatians, the
yep,
original story, she is just this horrible person who wants Dalmatian coats to make a coat.
yep.
Um, and then you have the Maleficent, who is the witch in Sleeping Beauty. So,
I actually have not watched the movie Maleficent.
oh, okay. But
So
you've watched Sleeping Beauty.
I watched Sleeping Beauty. I know who Maleficent is as presented in Sleeping Beauty, but I don't know the backstory of Maleficent.
Um, Off the top of my head, I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen the movie, but I do think again, it's like someone who had trauma, who had like a lot of things happen in their life that kind of brought them to this point. I think they're looking at doing a live version of Sleeping Beauty, and so I'm interested to see if they like pull any of that storyline from the origin stories of Maleficent into that to see like the coming together of it.
I think we have some homework to do. Like, I think we should watch Maleficent and understand. I'm hearing that she is all about trying to protect these magical creatures from a magical forest. So there might be like a deep uh like seated reason that she shows up the way she does. I'm curious.
Correct. So, but my point being is like we are getting more information about these people who were presented to us very one dimensional. Same with
Yeah.
Cruella. Like she was trying to achieve something great. She kept getting knocked down. She kept being like not being given the space to create and have her creations come to life. Um, and so, her backstory is one again of stressors and complication that then have led to a woman who just seeks Dalmatian
Murder
coats.
of a princess. Oh,
No,
you
that's
were
not
you were over
Cruella.
on Cruella.
I moved
You were
over to
I was
Cruella.
still on Maleficent. Yeah. Well, murder of a princess, murder of Dalmatians for a fur coat, both really evil behaviors, for sure. So
As they face on like the initial presentation.
no,
But
those are
then
those are evil. Those are evil things.
correct. Yes, evil things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why is it? I think the story of Cruella and the story of Maleficent differ from Thanos in that they may have started out not uh not evil intentions, but have grown to become evil, whereas Thanos truly believes he is trying to do a good thing, and he believes that he is just the only one with the guts to do the thing that no one else is willing to do, that is going to save the entire cosmos. Like, Cruella just wants a coat.
A coat made of Dalmatian.
Maleficent just wants, I don't know, revenge, more power, like
Right. So
all of
then
those
I guess
things.
the question becomes like, are we supposed to now be like more understanding of like, oh, that's still a bad thing, but they had a tough upbringing or they
I don't
had
know. You can
struggle.
still be a villain and like have gotten there from a tough place. Like, I think that's compassion, but uh not what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I think you could still call them evil. It's like, even if you understand how they got there, that's what compassion is, right? Um, but I think the difference is that Thanos is not seeking something for himself. He is actually attempting to save the world. He's
Right,
just
but he sees his way as the only
misguided.
way. That like
But isn't
it's
that what
my
we
way
all
or the
do?
highway.
Even when we believe we're in the good, we see our way as the only way. Like, isn't that, I'm not saying you always see your way as the only way. I'm just saying, like, isn't that what heroes do? They're like,
Well,
oh,
I
we have to
think
save the
that's what
world by taking out the villain. That's the only way.
right. Isn't that like kind of what the story of Captain America Civil War was about? Both sides of heroes saw the way to move forward as very different, and so it caused that fracture.
Sure.
In the approach of trying to protect people,
And
humanity.
obviously, as we've discussed, Iron Man was correct.
And always will be in Van's eyes.
Hashtag RDJ.
So when I was looking into the like villains that we've gotten backstories from for Disney, found that these were the only two Disney villains that they had created backstories for.
No. Syndrome from The Incredibles has a backstory it's in The Incredibles movie. You get the backstory of the character.
Gotcha.
He wears the black and white striped outfit. He's like this short dude with red hair. You know who I'm talking about? Syndrome?
Yeah.
Yeah. He loved Mr. Incredible, and Mr. Incredible, the hero, just kind of blew him off. And then he became this evil villain, who, was
Can't
decent
befriend you, I will take you down.
Yeah, decent at villainy.
In the grand scheme of things, pretty decent.
He was decent. Like, he got an empire built up in a volcano, so pretty decent. But he wasn't like great at it because in the end,
Execution can sometimes
he may
be a
or may
little
not
difficult.
have won. I mean, The Incredibles has been out for a very long time as well. So
Yes.
let's just say if we're telling you things you didn't know, like,
We're
the
so
spoiler is
sorry.
on you. I am not your villain.
I am not your villain. All right. So, in any final thoughts on villains, Jen?
I don't know. I think it's okay to love a villain. Those are my final thoughts. Like, everybody needs to be loved, and Thanos, I love you.
You're a fictional character, but I love you.
Big fan.
Look,
Don't snap me out.
Yeah, no kidding. But he didn't have control of that. Like, he had control of the snap, but not who would be for me.
True. He was tortured
Again,
over that.
If you have not watched that movie, and that's a spoiler. Oops.
My final thoughts are, if one of us has to be a villain, it's not the awkward one of us.
Oh, it's 1,000% you. You wouldn't know that you were a villain, but you would be. No, I don't think either of us would be. Look, I think it goes back to that intention that you were talking about, and I think a lot of times, a piece of advice that I once received is never say never, because you never know a situation that you may be in and how you will have to show up, what you will have to do to survive.
Yeah.
And so,
which of us do you think would make a better villain, though? Like, if one of us was going to be a villain, who would be better at it? I think it would be me.
I think so too. I really do.
I think I would be a better villain. I think you're just too nice.
No, I think you would make a better villain. One,
I don't know how I feel about you agreeing with me, though.
you have Ace and Alex, who I think would be wonderful in helping direct you.
You think I need to be direct?
No, I think you, as all good villains, have a team, and I think you have two that would be very good at at what could or could not.
I hear the cackling coming from the producer's office. I think that I am incredibly driven, and I love to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and anything that I set out to do, I'm going to do it, and I could be a fantastic villain. And I probably could be a fantastic villain in the way that Thanos is a fantastic villain. Like I don't have to be, you know, evil-hearted to be a good villain, right? Or do you think I have to be evil-hearted?
I think you have to be willing to accept certain things that a lot of people wouldn't be okay with.
I do think I'm probably the villain in some people's story.
In reflection.
Not like on purpose. Like I don't try to be, but I probably am. Like probably.
Probably.
Do you think you're the villain in some people's story? Just in
for sure. For sure. I
can't
do
see that.
So.
I can't see that.
But again, I think it goes back to when depending
you're way nicer than me.
Yeah, but you can be nice and have all the best intentions, but people like depending on the interaction that you have with people, that's not their story. So you have your version and your perspective and what occurred. Someone else has like you may have walked that same path together, but how they see that path was very different than the way you see it.
Okay, so if you were a villain, that's just closing thoughts here. If you were a villain, what would your superpower be?
I think I would want what would superpower? Probably like strategy. Like I do, and I know that's not like an active thing, but when it comes to the grand scheme of things, if you have a solid strategy and a solid plan to move forward, you can probably get pretty far. So
I think if I were a villain, my superpower would just be like brute force, like strength, like power. Like and that's how I play video games too. Like those little slashy video games. And I'm like, how do I just power up to a ridiculously high level and then like, I don't need any strategy. I don't have to think about what buttons I'm pressing or what I should attack and what I'm not. Like, I just want to press all the buttons and slashy, and the thing dies. And then I just laugh evilly, like, wah! You know.
I was about to say, I would also want an evil laugh. Like, that would be required.
For sure. And I think you already have a sidekick. Ollie would make a great evil villain sidekick.
Yeah, the first sound of anything scary, he'd be running away. So yeah, I don't know about
Remember, he took Lola at bay when you all were here.
That's true. Like, that's very true.
He's a tiny dog with some big balls. Well, we would love to hear from you guys about your favorite villains. And if you were a villain, what superpower would you have? I don't know. Do we want to hear that? That may keep me up at night, just sort of terrified that there are all these aspiring villains out there and how evil they would be.
Look, I think we want to hear. I think we want to hear about the villain. Do you see yourself as the villain? Do you not? Are there villains that we miss? We only talked about a handful of them.
Yeah.
And of course,
also,
we want to hear those.
In being an overpowered villain, I would have some comedic relief built in with all of my awkward commentary.
Would be required. Absolutely.
I just wanted to be in their mouths.
Well, am I asking for too much? Is it really too much? So in closing, though, I do want to share, I know we talked about villains, but I found this really cool charity that I wanted to give a shout out to because I found just their purpose, what they do and provide to this community is absolutely adorable. So it's called the Superhero Project Kids. They work with children who have serious illness or special needs to discover what they call their inner superheroes. So they are a 501c3 organization that launched back in 2017. This woman, Lisa Collins, who actually got the idea while working at a summer camp, she pulled this through into helping inspire and help children. So they have this whole like interview intake process where she meets with them to better understand like what does a superhero mean to them, like outside of supernatural powers. And then they go through this process of like truly identifying this character and bringing it to life. And they actually work with artists who create artwork based on their conversations. There's a video on their website that's really, really cute. Their website is www.superheroprojectkids.org. The video is a little bit of a tearjerker, but you hear from everyone. You hear from Lisa, you hear from the families, and you actually get to hear from some of the artists as well who helped create the work, which I thought was a really cool thing to hear.
Yeah, definitely. Check it out. I mean, in the words of Bonnie Tyler, these folks are holding out for a hero, and we all need a hero sometimes. So especially kids who are, just trying to survive in life. So definitely check it out. What was that web address again, Chris?
It was www.superheroprojectkids.org.
Awesome. Check it out. If you're involved, we'd love to hear about your experience with the organization, and definitely super meaningful. So let's go out there and be heroes, not villains. And we'll catch you next time on Chris and Jen in the Morning,
where it's always morning somewhere. Bye, y'all.
Bye.